So I just wanted to talk about this ongoing, I don't expect it's going to be resolved anytime soon. It's just an ongoing conundrum, I'll say, in my own practice. And that is between figuration and abstraction. And I'm just going to throw out a bunch of the ideas that I have grappled with in the past and that I still grapple with now. And they may or may not be in any intelligible order. So hopefully everybody gets something out of this. I don't know. I think I did get into the idea of abstraction perhaps because I lacked confidence in my technical drawing skills. I never, let's see, in terms of my art technique classes, I took one kind of eclectic drawing class in a community college once, way back. And then I took a mixed media class many years later that involved things like the artist that led that was very experimental. So we would do things like drive over our paintings in the driveway and put gunpowder on them. And then I took a contemplative art class that was very much about watching the state of your mind. So I had these experiences, all of which I found to be extremely rich and interesting, not to mention many classes in improvisation, both theatrical and otherwise. And that was always what I found to be very interesting, is the improvisation. I have always been a person that resists following pathways that are laid out for me since the time I can remember. I didn't want to choose a major because somebody else was going to then tell me what classes I had to take. So when it comes to figuration, I did in the past have that insecurity about drawing. I remedied it by, I decided I needed to remedy it. So I embarked on a self-study course with drawing on the right side of the brain. The author's name is evading me at this moment, but it's a very well-known book. And I followed her course and found that actually, much to my surprise, I really enjoy drawing. And so I remedied that suspicion in myself that I go towards abstract painting because I'm afraid of figuration. I am a bit lazy. But the laziness is qualified. I practice an instrument that involves a lot of commitment and practice. I'm disciplined. But there's something in me that just can't wrap my head around studying figuration in painting. And I definitely think there's some laziness involved there. So be it. So I have found that my attraction to art did go towards abstraction before I myself started exploring that medium. So there's got to be more to it, right, than just me being lazy. There is more to it. Texture is very, very strong for me. And I think my mind gets immediately bored unless I'm committed to doing a drawing practice. So there's a divide here. The gap between just noodling all the fuck over the place, life in it. So for me, the living edge of painting, and it's a very painful edge, I might add, painting, I have a very love-hate relationship with expressing myself in any solid medium. Someone articulated, I think it's been articulated in a couple of books I've read, but whenever you bring a vision into physical, phenomenal reality, the perfection of the vision is destroyed forever. There's no way to keep it. So I can sometimes be a very cerebral person. I guess maybe that's the way to say it. I retreat into my head. I'm definitely a perfectionist. And so, to bring something down and see what it looks like when I bring it down through my body, so countless times, people countless times. I am so disappointed. It's so disappointing. You have this vision of what you're going to write, what you're going to paint, what you're going to sing, and you start to try to work it out, and maybe you have some vocabulary, some skills. Maybe you're just improvising, which is 100% valid. I think, I mean, look at kids do it. And I'm not saying kids is the same as art. I'm just saying there's an element there that's living. If you totally lost my train of thought. So there's a living edge. And yes, I've been so disappointed so many times. It's kind of miraculous to me and wondrous that I've managed to, well, I guess there's so much benefit to be reaped out of the creative process, but it's harrowing. It's like I'm addicted to that edge of torture where you don't know what you're doing next. And for some reason, that's dreadful to vanity, to the self concept. For some reason, it's just this experience of dread and fear and frozenness. But if you can just push yourself over that edge, and there's levels where that happens. It's like you make some marks on the paper and, oh, it's quite pleasing, but then you're frozen because you're so afraid you're gonna fuck it up. Pamela Kari is an artist who I really appreciate for this, playing like a child, and it's easier said than done, because especially after you get attached to something, because you don't want to ruin it. So you have to jump off that cliff and just ruin it. Sometimes I create a cliff by, it's not quite a strategy yet. It will probably stop working when it becomes a strategy. But if I'm really getting exasperated these days, instead of pushing through like I used to, and which usually did not work anyway, I would just resist and be going through the motions, getting the hours in. I don't know, 10,000 hours. Oh, fuck that. I don't know. But when I say, okay, 10 more minutes, you've got to be finished in 10 minutes because now we'll just move on to the next thing. Something about that works. Usually I'm just, 10 more minutes. I'll just do this one thing. And if I don't do it in the 10 minutes, I'm leaving. And I do stick to that 10-ish minutes, or 10 minutes is arbitrary, but I do stick with allowing myself to go. But in that gap, that period of time that I've allowed myself, sometimes the best things happen. I've been working in the studio for a couple of hours and I'm getting bored and I just want to leave. And then I give myself that ultimatum, and then things happen. Yeah, just the exploration of what is that edge between figuration, where you have a sense, a preconception of what you're going to do, and improvisation, when you have as little preconception as it's possible to have in a human brain. That those two edges and how far they stand apart and how close I can bring them together in any one session, that is the question.